Right now, as you're watching this, somebody somewhere is cracking an egg into a hot pan. Actually, make that millions of somebodies every single morning. And nobody stops to think about it. Why would you? The egg's just there, in the carton, in the fridge. The chicken made another one yesterday. She'll make another one tomorrow. Easy. But here's the thing that should honestly blow your mind. No other bird on Earth does this. None of them. Look outside your window. See that little bird building a nest? She'll lay maybe 4 eggs this spring, maybe 5. And then she's done. Finished. No eggs in July, no eggs in October, no eggs in the dead of winter. Her body just switches off. Same deal with the duck at the park, the sparrow on the wire, the hawk circling way up high. Every wild bird you've ever seen plays by the same rule. Lay your eggs in spring, then stop. And that rule, it's old, like really old. We're talking 150 million years old. Back to the feathered dinosaurs, before flowers even existed on this planet. So how did the chicken break a rule that every other bird has followed since before the continents look the way they do now? That's what we're getting into today. And trust me, the answer is way weirder than you think. It involves sunlight, a bunch of hormones, one tiny genetic glitch found in a lab in Sweden, and thousands of years of humans quietly rewiring an animal from the inside out. Let's go. To understand your breakfast, we've got to travel to a jungle in Southeast Asia. Picture it: thick bamboo, damp air, a canopy so heavy that noon feels like dusk down on the forest floor. And scratching around in the leaves, a small, jumpy, gorgeous little bird. This is the red jungle fowl. And believe it or not, this is the great-great-grandma of every chicken on the planet. The males are stunning. Fiery orange feathers, greens that shimmer when the light hits, long, sweeping tail feathers. The females? Plain brown. On purpose. They're built to disappear into the dirt the second a predator shows up. They live in little groups. They eat bugs and seeds. They sleep up in the branches. And here's the key part. They only breed when the sun tells them to. Remember that. It matters. A lot. Here's how it works, and it's honestly kind of amazing. When winter ends and the days start getting longer, light hits the bird's eye. But it doesn't stop there. In a bird, the skull is so thin that light actually passes right through the bone and reaches sensors deep inside the brain. Yeah, birds basically see sunlight with their brains. Wild, right? Those brain sensors count the daylight hours, and once the days get long enough, they flip a switch. The brain fires off a chemical signal. That signal tells the body to start making hormones. And those hormones tell the ovary, all right, it's time. Make an egg. In the wild jungle fowl, this whole thing happens maybe once a year. She lays 5, 6 eggs. She sits on them for 3 weeks. The chicks hatch. And then her body powers all the way down until next spring. Now, this isn't the bird being lazy. This is 150 million years of evolution being genius. Think about it. Spring means warm weather, tons of insects to feed hungry babies, long days to hunt for food, lots of leaves to hide in. A hen who laid eggs in November? She'd be raising babies in the freezing cold with nothing to eat. Those chicks wouldn't survive, and neither would her family line. Back in 1947, a scientist over at Oxford figured out something huge about this. He said birds don't lay as many eggs as they can. They lay as many as they can actually raise. A robin could pop out 10 eggs, but she'd never be able to feed 10 screaming mouths. Half of them would starve. So evolution doesn't reward the bird who lays the most eggs. It rewards the bird who raises the most babies. Big difference. And making even one egg? It's exhausting. For a tiny songbird, a single egg can be 15% of her body weight. 15%! Imagine a grown adult producing a 20-pound object out of their own body every single day. No wild bird would ever do that. It'd kill them. And then we showed up. For a long, long time, humans and jungle fowl just kind of ignored each other. We hunted them now and then. They stayed in the forest. That was it. But around 8,000 years ago, in the rice farming villages of Thailand, people started catching these birds and keeping them in pens near their homes. And get this, it probably wasn't even for the eggs at first. It was mostly for cockfighting, for religious rituals. And hey, the rooster was a pretty reliable alarm clock, crows at sunrise every day like clockwork. The eggs? Just a nice little bonus. But then somebody noticed something, and this one little observation, it changed everything. Here's what they figured out. If you sneak an egg out of the nest before the hen's finished laying her batch, she just makes another one to replace it. Now, why does that work? Here's the sneaky part. The jungle fowl feels her eggs underneath her body while she's sitting. She's basically counting them by touch. And once she feels the right number, her brain sends a signal. Okay, we're full. Stop making eggs. Time to sit. But if you keep stealing the eggs, that "we're full" signal never fires. So her body just keeps going and going. She's waiting for a full nest that never, ever fills up. That's the trick. That's the whole secret behind every egg you've ever eaten. And people discovered it by total accident, thousands of years before anyone knew what a hormone even was. So what happened next? The longest, most stubborn breeding project in human history. No science, no fancy technology, just the simplest, most brutal method there is. Keep the hens that lay tons of eggs. Eat the ones that don't. Do that over and over for thousands of years across dozens of civilizations. Every generation, the hens that happen to have slightly better egg-making bodies got to live and have babies. The rest? Dinner. And little by little, the chicken drifted further and further away from that wild bird in the jungle. By the time these birds reached ancient Rome, farmers had even figured out a hack. They'd burn oil lamps at night to give the hens extra daylight. More light, more eggs. They had no clue why it worked, but it did. Now, here's where it gets really good. For thousands of years, something was quietly changing inside the chicken's DNA. Nobody could see it, nobody knew it was there, and it took until the year 2010 for scientists to finally catch it. A research team in Sweden compared the DNA of farm chickens against wild jungle fowl. They were hunting for the exact spot where all those years of breeding had left a mark. And one thing jumped out, a single gene. This gene, it's basically a lock, and the key is sunlight. In wild birds, it keeps egg laying chained to the seasons. But in farm chickens, that gene was broken, mutated. And that broken lock, it changed everything. Because now the hen doesn't need spring anymore. She doesn't need longer days. Her body can make eggs in January, in July, in the middle of the night in December, anytime, any season. One tiny change in one gene. That's all it took to shut off a 150 million-year-old alarm clock. And here's the crazy part. Almost every chicken on Earth has this exact same mutation now. The old seasonal version, practically gone, wiped out. Because any hen with the glitch laid more eggs, so farmers kept breeding her over and over until it spread through basically the entire species. But hold on, a broken clock only explains when she can lay. It doesn't explain how she lays almost one every single day. That took even more changes, stacked on top over thousands of years. And what we ended up with is a living egg factory. Let me walk you through it. Making one egg takes about a full day inside her body. It starts with the yolk, a little yellow ball of fat and protein, about the size of a ping pong ball. That drops into a long tube. First, the egg white gets wrapped around it, then the membranes, and then comes the big one, the shell. The shell takes around 20 hours to build. 20 hours! Layer by layer, crystal by crystal. And then the whole thing starts over the very next morning. Now, here's where it gets heavy. Building all those shells needs calcium, a ton of it. A hen laying 300 eggs a year pumps out more than 20 times the calcium in her entire skeleton. Every year. Where does it all come from? Partly her bones. Her body literally dissolves calcium out of her own skeleton to build the shell. then tries to rebuild the bone later. Wild birds do this too, but only for a couple weeks a year. The farm hen, she does it non-stop, for over a year straight. No break. Her body was built for a short sprint, and we turned it into a marathon that never ends. And it takes a toll. These hens often end up with cracked chest bones, worn out reproductive systems, even ovarian tumors, because every single egg means another tiny injury to the ovary that has to heal over and over and over. A wild hen ovulates maybe 10 times a year. A farm hen, 300. A wild jungle fowl can live 8, 10, 12 years out in the forest. A farm hen is usually done in about a year and a half. That's the trade. And this is what makes the chicken so different from every other animal we've tamed. We turned wolves into dogs, chihuahuas to Great Danes. Amazing. But a dog's body still breeds on its old natural schedule. We bred cows to make crazy amounts of milk, but that's still tied to having a calf. The chicken is the only one where we reached in and completely unplugged the animal's clock from the sun itself. A timer that nearly every bird and mammal on Earth still runs on. Gone in the chicken on purpose. And here's the mind bender to leave you with. Birds aren't related to dinosaurs. Birds are dinosaurs. Living ones. That egg in your fridge, it's made using the exact same biological blueprint a dinosaur used to lay eggs 75 million years ago. So think about that. We took a system older than mountains, older than the oceans, and we rewired it to run without rest, just so we'd have breakfast. Right now, as you're watching this, there are around 25 billion chickens alive on this planet. That's more than 3 for every single human being. And somewhere, deep in a jungle in Thailand, one little brown hen is scratching in the leaves, laying her 5 eggs this spring, sitting on them just like her ancestors did for 150 million years. She has no idea what we did to her family. So next time you crack an egg on some random Tuesday morning, just pause for 1 second. Because that plain little thing in your hand, it's one of the strangest things humans have ever created. And honestly, most people will never even think to ask why. But you did.